actually is fairly similar to the movie The Santa Claus, if you really think about it.
In what way?
Well, you have this terrible, terrible, terrible man who is given the power of visiting a place that does not exist, and everyone in the world just completely ignores the fact that it does exist. And then they turn into a very rich Republican.
Welcome to Bible Boys, a podcast where two ex-evangelical siblings and an ex-Catholic non-sibling watch Christian media and either praise or condemn it. I'm Aaron.
I'm Josh.
And I'm Michael.
And this week, we round out our month of underworldly exploration with 23 Minutes in Hell by Bill Weiss. Before we spend at least 23 minutes describing the miserable experience of reading this book, please be sure to rate and review us on Apple Podcasts, like and comment on our video, and follow us on Twitter at The Bible Boys.
Alright, and here's our review. And Aaron just looped that for about 2 hours, and then we'll give our ratings, and then we're done.
Yeah, so it's time again for us to convene our monthly book club. Last time we did Heaven is for Real, and this time we're doing the opposite of Heaven is for Real, which is
Hell is for
where
fake.
a man goes to Hell is for Hell is super fake. So, God, as you're about to learn, listeners, this book was neither interesting nor a good read, but we will probably make fun of it a lot, and I hope that you guys have a good time listening to that.
I want to point out, last time we went into Heaven is for Real, I was so ready to cook on them, and the energy in this studio was not one of cooking on them. I also want to say there might be a guest fourth member, and that is my mom, who is on the phone outside of my room. So if you pick up on that audio, follow Stephanie Green on Twitter.
Great. Can't wait for
Please
her
don't
insights.
follow my mother on Twitter.
We can't do that to your poor mom.
No, if you hear any laughing, she's not laughing at my good jokes. But yeah, this thing was terrible, and this man is evil, and he deserved every minute that he didn't go to hell.
I guess that's true.
I guess we should start with, I want to own the fact that I don't believe in hell, so I am not the target audience for this person's musings on something. It's kind of like if you were like, go visit Santa Claus in his workshop at the North Pole. Like 23 minutes with Santa Claus in the North Pole. That is about as realistic as I find this.
I would actually love to read that book.
This actually is
That's a better book.
fairly similar to the movie The Santa Claus, if you really think about it.
In what way?
Well, you have this terrible, terrible, terrible man who is given the power of visiting a place that does not exist, and everyone in the world just completely ignores the fact that it does exist. And then they turn into a very rich Republican.
Well, let's do a quick summary.
This will be the quickest summary.
Aaron, I
The
think
truth about this...
I could give a summary in under a minute.
The truth about this book is that it is maybe 130 pages long, and within 30 pages, he's already out of hell. So, do you want to try to give it a shot, Josh?
For sure. So, this man wakes up in hell naked. He spends time talking about that. He's in a room. 2 demons kind of torture him. He's able to get away from those demons, where he looks at a pit. Then he runs into Jesus and goes, "Yo, what's up?" Jesus is like, "This is hell. Now you're out of it." Bam. Done.
And then the rest of the 70 pages are like, okay, I totally went to hell. Here's all the crazy chick tracts that happened to me afterwards when I totally converted everyone and they thought I was really cool. And also, here's my thesis defense of all the lies that I told.
Yeah, here's my Q&A. All of the A's can be read in the first 30 pages, and all of the Q's are not what Q's you would have.
I mean, this is just like Christian fan fiction, like in every way. So, yeah, and like conservative evangelical Christian fan fiction at that. And I think I should be honest and say I read solidly the first 4 chapters.
That was
the 5th chapter I skimmed. The 6th chapter I read and then decided that was enough. So I did not read the Q&As. Aaron called it out. He saw my face when we talked about the Q&As and said, "Oh, Michael's not reading that." And guess what? Michael didn't read that.
I need to talk about how the first 6 chapters are structured, and the fact that they're written as if they're an academic book with some sort of what I believe to be Chicago-style citations. And as a history major who's written a lot of papers in Chicago style, it's not my favorite, but it is my go-to. That's you can't say the Bible's real because the Bible said the Bible's real. So that was immediately the part where I was just like, he was like, "Yeah, I saw a demon. Here's proof of the fact I saw a demon. The Bible mentions demons." Okay. All right.
His use of the biblical text to reinforce his beliefs and claims is firstly gross, because it's clearly an exploitative use of a religious text that some people genuinely, sincerely believe in. But secondly, it's not even good. Like, so there's a part where in the Q&A where he's like, "Oh man." So he's like, "Okay, do demons torture people in hell?" And he's like, "Oh yeah, they totally torture people in hell. It's awful and it sucks." And he cites Matthew 18:34, and the thing he picks out of that verse is ... delivered him to the torturers. And I was like, okay, this dude's up to some shit. So I looked up Matthew 18, and it's the parable of the unforgiving servant, which, if you all remember, is where there's a parable about a servant who is like late on his payments to his masters, and his master's like, "Okay, I forgive you." And then like the servant goes and like beats up another servant who owed him money. And then the master is like, "Why didn't you forgive him? I forgave you." And the guy's like, "I don't know." And then the master hands him over to the torturers until he pays back the master. That's where he's getting that from. He just completely cherry-picked that line out of there. And that's just one extremely obvious example at the back half of his book. All the other shit is, I'm sure, so much worse.
That's so fun. Oh my god.
I have so much I want to talk about. I gotta go one at a time. So he inserts quotes throughout the book to kind of be like, here's what other people talk about hell. And one of the ones that immediately stood out to me was Billy Graham, who's kind of a famous evangelical preacher. The one that stuck out even more was Franklin Graham, his kid. Not famous evangelical, just some guy whose dad was famous. Both suck, but it's amazing that he went deep. He went deep into the Graham history. I believe also Franklin Graham shows up in our first Bible Boys podcast.
Yep, in God's Not Dead, he's the one that the girl is listening to on her iPod.
Yep.
Oh, the conspiracy
so
board.
Listen, I think you're underestimating. I think you're underestimating the potential of Franklin Graham. I think he's got a big fan base.
I think
they're called evangelicals.
I know so many evangelicals, and I think 3 of them know who Franklin Graham is.
Okay, before we go into the... all of it's boring, but I want to talk about his vision of hell. Because, like, we just did an episode on Dante's Inferno 2010, the video game. That version of hell, while, borrowing from a much better work of art, is still more interesting than Weiss's version of hell. So, like, he cites a couple things. First, he says, "Okay, I'm in a prison, and I'm naked, and that sucks, and it's dark, and I can't see shit. But also, there's some demons in here with me, and they're gonna torture me." And the demons are just, like, a lizard person and a fish man. Like, it's just, like...
It's some D&D shit.
It's literally, yeah, I was like, okay, yeah, no, I've read the monster manual. You could have just, like, flipped through that shit and, like, gotten better descriptions, my guy. Like, it's like fucking universal monsters like the Swamp Man and, the Shape of Water dude were there, and they totally told me that I was, they said that they hated God, and they punched me really hard. Like, it's so boring.
They said they hated God in a language that wasn't one that I spoke, but I completely understood it, and I also knew it to be unholy. Why? Reasons.
How much money do you think in the original copy he wrote Arabic?
I don't think he knows how to spell Arabic, so.
That's an excellent point. Yeah, I do believe his stupidity beats out his racism. You know a lot when you're in hell. There's a lot of stuff that you just know. Like, distances. Like, spatial awareness just grows, like, exponentially in your mind. Because he's like, I'm in a room. It was 7 feet by 7 feet. And then I went to a hallway. And then a mile down that, and I just knew it was a mile. There was a pit, and I knew we were 400 feet underground. And, like, and then the citation just said, yeah, I knew it. What?
I mean,
I was there. Citation, me.
It's not just distance either. It's biology. So I took a couple of notes about all the times that he, like, kind of claimed to be a biological expert, where he talks about the stench from the demons, and there's no way anyone could survive that on Earth, obviously, because it's toxic. And I'm like, you really are really getting deep in here. And then, of course, I felt pain, but it was if the pain was somehow being softened. I knew I did not experience the full brunt of the pain. How? I beg you to explain how. I beg you to defend one thing you say.
As a person who occasionally DMs in D&D, it kind of feels like you're trying to describe when something is resistant to the type of damage you used. That's a deep pull, but it's like, yeah, you hit it, but you don't hit it super good.
They were doing that necrotic damage.
He's resistant to necrotic damage because he loves God.
Yeah, as a Christian, he's obviously...
Christians get advantage on their saving throws against demon torture.
I am going to keep sprinkling fun facts about demons. Apparently, they have no symmetry, because as we all know, symmetry is God.
Mm-hmm. If you're asymmetrical, you're unholy, is what this man is saying. So,
and that's why I now call all evangelicals snowflakes. Famously symmetrical.
That's a very good joke about snowflakes. I'm very proud of you, Michael.
Got him
you
just off the dome.
The boring, easy one, but you went for the symmetry joke, and I think that's highbrow humor.
That's what y'all are here for.
Oh, God. Okay, one of my favorite lines in this is where he's talking about how hot hell is, and he's like, oh, God, hell is so hot. It's, like, way hotter than you could even imagine. Like, think about the desert. It's, like, 1,000 times hotter than that. And then he says the line, water has always been very valuable and pleasurable to my wife and me.
He does!
What does that mean?
They use a water-based lube. That's what that means.
That makes more sense.
I was gonna go with the, like, these are the evangelicals that, like, don't allow soda in their house. So they think that's peak, like, flavor. They've never had literally any other liquid.
Okay, I want to talk about the elephant in the room.
Satan's penis?
No,
that was in our other episode.
Oh, yeah, sorry.
I swear to God, if you read a version of this book where they talked about Satan's penis...
Michael, you gotta read the Q&A.
So I want to talk about this guy that this dude obviously wants to fuck.
Oh, at the gym?
The gym guy.
Oh, yeah, the gym man!
He mentions this man's bulging muscles, how big he is, how he could fight demons, but even he couldn't beat up a demon. And he's like, oh, my wife and I know him. My wife and I know this guy from the gym. This guy's at our gym. And one day we saved him. And it's like, okay, first of all, how many non-Christians do you know that would walk up to you and say, God has guided me to talk to you? And
None.
Second of all, this feels very, hey, my wife noticed you from across the room. Can we buy you a drink?
I was going to say, this is a Jerry Falwell Jr. situation.
That's me in the corner. Like, he definitely wanted to jack it while that man had sex with his wife.
Well, and what I love
God.
is that the demons are completely unbothered by physical fitness, and that is something that we all know to be true. I've always taken care of myself by eating right, exercising, and staying in shape. But none of that mattered as my body was being destroyed before my very eyes.
Okay,
and I work out so my body can't be destroyed by demons.
I need to point out, he mentions he's naked so often in this book. He's like, I'm naked, and that makes me feel bad, but my body is awesome.
He wants to know how he's like, listen, I am being flayed alive by demons, but I look really hot while it's happening. My dick's out and everything. Like, Christ. This is the mindset of this guy who put these bad words into a book. Like, God.
I want to give a little game for our audience. So imagine you are a conservative Christian white man, and you need to think of 2 big historical world events that were tragic to compare to hell. What 2 big historical events are hell-like? That's right, the Holocaust and 9/11. Those were the 2 things he compared hell to.
Yeah, no, it's really bad. He was just like, God, the thing that I made up, it's just like being a victim of the Holocaust or the 9/11 terror attacks. I had that same experience, basically. And I'm going to sell it to you for $10.95.
He also says it's worse than the Titanic. I want you to know, not only because he doesn't go that far with 9/11 or the Holocaust. He's like, no, I can't cross that line. But I can say it's worse than the Titanic for sure.
That movie's not that bad.
God, it is very long though. Unfortunately,
it's much longer than this his experience in hell. I have to mention the thing he compares to the Holocaust is being stripped naked to remove like one's dignity as a person. That was really shoehorned in there. Like, that did happen, but you did not... No one was thinking, man, this is a little bit similar to a historical event. I wonder which one. You did not need to bring up the Holocaust in this fake book, my guy.
Yeah, I mean, it just is a reminder, we've talked about this before. It's very much the clip of Ted Cruz. Why am I being persecuted? Like, this persecution complex and this, like, desire to be oppressed. Like, this man is looking for a oppression to compare his situation to.
It's just so embarrassing, right? Like, that's the problem we see with evangelical conservatives, which is like, they don't really have to face any oppression if they don't want to, so they have to invent it for themselves, and then we get things like this, and then they have to go, they write 30 pages of like kind of uninteresting Bible fan fiction, and then they spend the rest of their lives defending it. And like, it's very boring.
Can we talk a little about this guy's job just really fast?
But he's a realtor, right?
He's a realtor. So Bill the realtor has been called on this hell experience to evangelize to people whose homes he's selling. And then he gets angry when those people say, hey, would you mind keeping your beliefs to yourself? And I'm sorry. If I'm selling my home, I am terminally ill, and this sentient Q-tip is trying to preach to me, then I too am going to say, actually, go fuck yourself. I got so annoyed with that. This old lady is dying, and he's like, well, I'm so sad because now I know that she's in hell. And would you be willing to risk your life? Oh, let me actually read his quote. Because
okay, I have a quote that's related to this. So like when he's talking about how angry he gets, he brings up this wild analogy about men filling up a pool full of acid.
Yes.
And then like kids about to jump into the pool of acid, and then he's like yelling and screaming at the kids not to jump into the pool, and it's like just completely bananas that he brings this up, but like he's like, that's what my life is like now. Every time I see somebody who's not Christian, I have to tell them not to jump in a pool of acid.
But in his own analogy, God is the guy who made the acid pool.
Yes, we'll talk about, once we exhausted the book, we'll talk about the actual implications of hell, but yes, you're correct.
So we also have to discuss the image that this man makes of himself. and that is the sole hero, the brave individual chosen by God, and this is just sprinkled throughout. When he is actually in hell, he takes a moment to be like, yeah, I remember when I was a kid, I used to beat up bullies. I'd try to protect the other kids, and I wasn't big or strong, but, I knew that, looking after others is what God would want. And then I was swimming with sharks, and a shark knocked me off my surfboard, and I wasn't too scared. I was just gonna keep on going. But hell was scarier than this. Shut the fuck up, man.
Yeah, no, he says he's like, I stand up for the defenseless my whole life. Like, no, you're just anti-abortion, sir. Like, that's all that means. Shut up.
You also said that the shark pulled you into the water and bit your foot, but it didn't leave a mark. Sharks, famously with gentle bites. What? What does...
It was a love bite.
It was a tickle shark,
You get cut from a shark if you pet it the wrong way. I don't understand what... This is... That's such a weird... You're making up in the book. You could just be like, yeah, I bled, but it healed easy. I'm not gonna fact check you, but now I think you're lying.
Michael, did you find that quote that he was...
Yeah, so it was, are you willing to risk your eternity on, quote-unquote, your opinion? And it's like, my dude, you're doing the exact same shit. Just because someone else has a different opinion doesn't mean that you're able to go, yes, got him.
All right, let's talk about Pascal's wager. It's time.
Yeah.
God. All right, so he does bring up Pascal. What is your all's experience with Pascal's wager?
Like in my belief systems, or like...
When were you first introduced to the concept? The thought exercise, I guess.
It would probably be high school, and honestly, when I heard it, I said, oh, this makes more sense for climate change than it does for religion.
That's really good. That's a good point.
That's great.
So in my Catholic high school, we were taught apologetics about how to defend our faith, and Pascal's wager was one of those apologetics tools, right? It's the concept that, like, okay, logically, if you know that you can either be saved for all eternity or suffer for all eternity, logically it makes sense that you would do, the thing that helps you get saved, because, like, even if you do get saved, like, that's great, but the main thing you want to do is avoid hell. So that's why you should be a Christian, because, like, if you bet wrong, the wager is that, like, you're betting your soul. And, like, that's, a pretty gross thing to base a religious belief off of.
It's also fine and dandy if there's one option.
Yes, and also ignores the fact that, like, what if, we all fucked up and it's actually the Aztec religion that we all should have been worshiping, and now we're all gonna, I don't want to say anything rude about the Aztec religion, but, be in their version of hell. Like... Again,
like we mentioned long ago, we'll die and Odin will go, you didn't kill anyone? And we're gonna have to look Odin in his one eye and say, I didn't, I'm sorry. And then we'll still burn in hell, but it'll be a different... Just one L?
It'll be the one L.
Yeah, just one L. Yes.
Same joke.
Get it quicker, Aaron. Gotta get it quicker.
Look, I'm gonna be mummified with my cats, and they are going to make sure that I go to heaven. So
this is some bitch is gonna pull out a feather in your heart.
Uh-huh.
Mm-hmm. God, I do not want to know how much Michael's heart weighs. I bet it's wild.
It's either nothing or, like, ridiculous.
It actually, it's not the weight, it just disintegrates the scale.
That's how you get into ultra Egyptian heaven, actually.
Yeah.
It's a cheat code.
I'm now Osiris, bitch.
Up, down, down, left, right, left, right.
That's right. So, like, I truly wish we had more to talk about. Like, he does mention that there are some spider demons and there's, like, a pit of fire that's only a mile wide, which I think is such a conservative estimate. Like, you have your entire imagination, sir, and your lake of fire is only a mile wide. I think that's just an embarrassment, but whatever.
It's better writing if you say it's an inconceivable distance.
Honestly, but no, because he established that he actually knows the literal number at all times, then he had to say 1 mile wide.
Oh, also, he says that there's no communication in hell, and that's part of the punishment. You have never worked retail, my guy.
No.
In my hell, it is every person coming up to me and going, man, this weather, am I right?
Okay, we would be remiss if we didn't talk about what this man says about sin.
Is this the sheep analogy? Is this the sheep thing?
I mean, that's part of it, but I'm just mostly more interested in some of this man's beliefs about what sin is in general. I'm thinking about the... we'll start at the beginning here. You say, I don't believe in hell. That's like someone saying to the judge, I don't believe in jail.
Yep.
And like...
Sir.
Kind of.
I guess.
Again, with your analogy, that's like if I'm not, there is no judge to talk to.
It's Pascal's wager again. Yeah, it's like, I mean, I don't know, man. Like, if a Hindu came up to him and is like, "Why don't you believe in the karmic reincarnation cycle?" He'd be like, "Wait, what?" And then they'd be like, "Well, why don't you just tell it to the judge, bro? Because if you don't believe in it, I mean, you're basically, you're gonna get turned into a fucking grasshopper, my guy." Like,
I love in this analogy if the person coming up to him also was like, "You ever heard of Pascal's wager?" Like, if I'm wrong, I just go to hell. You get reincarnated as a fucking grasshopper. That's way worse.
Well, and okay, let's just talk about what he like specifically calls out, because I think it's very telling about someone's psychology, what they view as like sins that are worth going to hell for. I think it's very, very telling. So we're going to start at the beginning. Whoever looks at a woman to lust for her has already committed adultery in his heart. Have you ever looked with lust? And I said, checkmate, bitch. I've never looked at a woman with lust in my heart. So I'm going to heaven. So we're starting there.
So Michael's good.
Yeah.
And then...
Aaron, we're starting rough.
Yeah, it's kind of rough for us, buddy.
This human roadkill decides to say, have you ever used God's name in vain? If you have, then you've used his holy name as a cuss word to express disgust. That's called blasphemy. No, it's fucking not. That's not what using the Lord's name in vain means. In fact, you saying, God, make my team win at baseball is more of a sin than me saying, oh my God. Like, if we're getting textual here, let's get textual and talk about what using God's name in vain is. God literally was like, yo, keep your name out your mouth if you're not actually talking to me. And like, same. And Christians really think that it's God damn it.
Yeah, I don't know if God would be super thrilled that we put his name all over our money that is used to, like,
yeah, that kind of feels more offensive.
Buy all kind. Yeah, I don't know if God would be super big on capitalism, I'm gonna be honest.
I mean, Jesus explicitly wasn't, but, that's a different conversation. So the thing about this book is that the first third of it is the very boring hell description. The rest of it is just this guy kind of cranking it into his computer. Like we said, he talks about all the conversions that allegedly he did, and some of them are like just hysterical. I mean, there's of course the one with the guy at their gym, which is very funny. My favorite one, though, is the college kids in California, where he's like, I guess, invited to a secular university where no one's ever heard of Jesus before. It's very much a reverse God's Not Dead, where they're just like, oh, really? Who is this Jesus Christ? I want to know more and how I might have my soul redeemed and I may drink from the waters of eternal life. It's the most chick track bullshit I've ever heard.
Can you throw me a Diet Coke?
There's another one where he's like, oh, somebody got my CD, which you can buy for $8.95 on my website, in their rental car, and then they were saved. It was great.
So the thing that makes me angriest is that he said the Bible was an excellent source of history. And can I just say, it is not? There are so many fucking aspects of the Bible that are simply wrong. You want to know the big one? there was no mass exodus of Jewish people that were enslaved in Egypt. The Egyptians wrote a lot of stuff down. I think they might have numbered something if they enslaved an entire population, and then that population left. Or maybe we would see some historical evidence of that migration. But we don't. So it's not a good historical reference. He's like, yeah, you should believe the Bible because historians have looked at it for centuries and never found a single thing wrong with it. Yes, they have.
I was gonna say, didn't you read the names of the 4 different people that say that the Bible is perfect and never wrong? Because he lists them.
Literally says it has been scrutinized by an endless array of scholars, historians, archaeologists, scientists, and mathematicians, and the like for thousands of years. There have not been any discrepancies or errors that could not be cleared up with good scholarship. Sir, there has, and I only have a bachelor's degree.
Dog, even in the fact that there are different translations of the Bible, don't you think that means something?
Oh, and the most evangelical part are who he chooses to put quotes from. And he uses George Washington, John Quincy Adams, which I'd put money on most people reading this book do not know was president, Benjamin Franklin, which I also put money on people thinking he was a president, Patrick Henry, they probably know him, and then I love he puts James McHenry, and he knew his audience. He was like, he signed the Constitution. I know you guys don't know anything about him.
I don't know who the fuck James McHenry is, but I know what he was going for.
And he fucking ended it with Woodrow Wilson, America's most racist president in a minute.
Gotta appeal to the Democrats that are reading this.
Oh my god. Mr. Wilson and his... Maybe the Klan had a couple good points.
Listen, Mr. Wilson did a great thing for us and with the League of Nations, and probably shouldn't have been for the president because of some other reasons.
The League of Nations was also a swing and a miss, if I'm going to be honest, but that's something we can talk about later.
Listen, catch us on Patreon for our League of Nations defense convo, where I defend both Woodrow Wilson's racism and the League of Nations.
Aaron, and I talk about how technically Wilson was the first woman president. Edith Wilson, look her up.
Oh, Christ.
This is unhinged. I need you all to know.
This book is unhinged.
Yeah.
I'm sweating. I'm so mad.
He just says so much wild stuff. Okay, in the last half when he's just doing part of the Q&A, he's like, okay, listen, firstly, I had no blood or water in my body. You gotta know that.
Wait, what? What?
What the fuck are you talking about?
What were your eyes doing? Were they just
I'm
two
so
marbles?
Confused.
You think his eyes were dried up or made of stone? That's an interesting... God.
Was he just the shriveled little creature in SpongeBob talking about chocolate?
Yes,
that what
he's
he
that
was?
great. That's what he looked like.
Every
Even
noise.
though he was also super sexy and naked.
Every noise out of his mouth was. I don't know if that'll pick up on Discord, but it's fun for audio.
Thank you. Also, he does say that hell is geographically 3,700 miles deep in the center of the earth.
Okay, so I didn't do the math on this because I was gathering from the first half of the book that this was his hypothesis. Don't we think that would be a little full by now?
That's the thing, right? God.
Just mathematically.
I don't know, he wants you to believe that hell is both, enormous because everybody gets their own individual pit, but also takes up physical geographic space, but also is only a mile wide also. It's just
Do we all
embarrassing.
shrink down? Are we all little crickets?
Well, that's why there's no water. It's just to get us in there.
The water thing isn't a torture, it's just space saving.
Yeah, that's not
It's just
the
logistical.
Yeah, that's just God looked at it and was like, man, if I'm going to punish these people for eternity, I got to get them in there somehow.
He goes into he gets weirdly defensive about prison bars and prison cells, and I think that's again such a failure of imagination. If we are tackling the thesis that hell is a real physical place, like, don't you think God would have like a little bit more imagination than being like, oh yeah, those things that humans use to like keep themselves in there? Like, I know I'm all powerful and all knowing, and like I could construct something like not that is not only beyond human comprehension, but also so perfectly designed to inflict the exact right amount of torture onto a human. But I'm actually just going to use prison cells because it's so much easier.
You're telling me that God copied off of the United States imprisonment system? Like, did the United States make hell on accident? And God was like, "Oh, that's a good idea. Let me write that down."
Don't you know that evangelical canon is and you know what, this is mentioned in the introduction of this book, America is a Christian nation, so it would follow a set of logic that our prison is designed off of hell. Divinely inspired.
It's great.
I think we need to talk about why you go to hell. And like, because I was wondering this. This is what was my first push out of Christianity, which was I don't believe in hell. Now, I haven't since middle school. Because I was like, eternity of torture, that doesn't make sense for literally anything. Like, I can't like, maybe like Hitler and Stalin and like 3 other guys, but like there are very few people I think belong in that camp. But he said that it is not a right that we go to heaven, but it is an honor. And how he used to describe it is, heaven is God's house. You don't just let anyone into your house. And sir, if we're God's children, yeah, we do. Yeah, he made us. Take care of us. Just because we didn't like the book he wrote doesn't mean we should go to hell for an eternity. And he also goes into descriptions of like, oh, if you think you're a good person, you ever lied? You ever stolen anything? You ever looked at a lady? Michael, you're fine, ignore that last one. Then you're going to hell.
Still.
Yeah, Michahel's still good, he hasn't done any of these.
Yeah, I've done absolutely nothing wrong. Maybe I'm fine with this.
Yeah, Michael's reading it like, I don't have anything to worry about.
This sounds rad.
I guess I'm going to heaven?
He didn't mention gay people at all in the book, so...
So I think I'm fine, y'all.
He wanted to, though. You just know it. I'm so shocked that one of the, like... one of the people being tortured didn't look over and go, "You look hot in a gay way."
No communication, couldn't happen. But
no.
You know, maybe he just like had that psychic knowledge, like, oh, everybody here's a homo. Oh.
It's like what Aaron thinks of the Applebee's.
I don't know why I think only gay people eat at Applebee's. That's one of the weirder prejudices I have.
It truly is. This is just real random Josh fact. You can cut it out if you want. For a long time, both my best friend and Michael were vegetarian, and also the gay people I only interacted with. So in my brain, I formed a stereotype that all gay people are vegetarians. And then I saw one of another friend I made eat a burger, and I was like, no, you're gonna get sick. And he was like, what the fuck? And I was like, I am the homophobe.
Michael Pavloved you into having a weird homophobia.
I just think all gays are vegetarian. I don't know what it is. I still kind of think that a little bit, if I'm being honest.
It doesn't help that Edgar's a vegetarian. I really am reinforcing that for you.
For a while, yeah, and you were dating him while, like, my best friend was also a vegetarian. So I was like, it was just constant feedback of, yeah, gays don't eat meat. I don't know what to tell you. 303 was right. This is my favorite cast so far.
I can't believe you dropped a "Don't Trust a Hoe" reference in our holy podcast about Christianity.
I mean, I guess this one's about hell, so...
Yeah.
He did mention that 303 was down there having a sick concert with Katy Perry. Oh,
you know what? That would actually be really fun in a mile deep pit.
God, it's... Oh, yeah, like, listen, I think it's pretty clear none of us believe in hell, right? There's a lot of evidence, like, I mean, even from a philosophical standpoint, being eternally punished for your lifetime that is finite. Even if you committed every sin possible, right? The fact infinity is just so vastly different from a finite amount of time. Like the concept of eternal punishment doesn't really make sense. It doesn't really jive with the concept of a loving God who created you and wants you to be happy. Especially if he, put you in an area where the vast majority of people are not Christians, and knew with his omniscience that you would never interact with a Christian in a way that would make you want to convert to Christianity. I don't, you know, it's it's just wild. I think his FAQ. I did read a couple of those, are very funny. Like, there's one that's like, "Hey, is there a purgatory?" And he's just like, "No, the Catholics are fucking wrong."
Yeah, he also says there are no children in hell, so checkmate Catholicism.
Got me again.
Yeah, those unbaptized babies go straight to heaven.
Why can't they just hang out in limbo? Limbo is just like baby daycare for a bit.
Or hell, depending on which video game you play.
Yeah, depending on which EA God of War redo.
There's so much more and less I want to talk about. Like, he mentions that there are different, like, levels to hell, but he doesn't talk about any of them, I guess. And he talks about, like, demons so little, but, like, that's what I want to know about. Like, talk to a demon. Get their opinion. Are they happy? Are they sad?
He was too busy flexing on them with his great body to strike up a conversation.
Perfectly symmetrical, dry body.
And I mean, I guess 23 minutes is a really short time to have a deep conversation.
He manages to go talk to God for a little bit.
You know what I hate most about this? Is that when he's on his evangelical tour and he's like, "Man, I was in hell for 23 minutes and that sucked. But, like, I wish that God would let me know. Like, I wish I could go back, just, like, so I knew." And then God was like, "Okay," and sent him back for another 10 seconds while he was driving his car.
I was so ready for that to end with, like, "Yeah, I did hit a family of 4, but, at least I know. Yeah, at least I know. Their son is in hell. I did see him down there.
I sent him there personally."
I became Dante.
He didn't accept Christ when his lungs were filling with blood.
No. It's great.
That's such a deep pull for the Bible Boys mythology.
Yup, just watch the Gods Not Dead trilogy. It's a quality series.
Honestly, you guys, like, if you've never listened to it, you hopped on late, you really need it to understand what's going on.
It is the rock upon which we build this podcast.
Yeah, we called it a different name, but who cares?
Yeah, don't worry about that.
Yeah, they had lawyers, so it never happened.
Oh, I mean, listen, I don't know how much actually, Josh, you would probably have a lot of good ideas about this, but my understanding is that, like, right, the concept of hell is firstly not even native to Christianity, right? Like, we start with the Hebrew version of Sheol, then we get Christ talking about Gehenna, which is a reference to a physical valley of Henna. I mean, the hell as we know it today is much more in line with, like, the Greek underworld with Hades and, like, the realm of the dead. Like, that is much more like what we commonly think of it as hell, if that's my understanding is correct.
Yeah, for sure. Like, Christianity went on a bit of a theft as it went around to the different areas, forming together the understanding that we do now. The idea of, like, a burning like lake forever was not something that was always accepted or understood. Like, if you want to understand what, like, early Christians believed of hell, look at Judaism. Most of their beliefs and lack thereof surrounding hell is kind of what existed. Jesus mentions it a lot in the scripture, but you have to remember that the Bible is not codified immediately after when people believe Jesus died. So for a long time, it was just live and let live, my guy.
Yeah, like, there's also, to cite Bart Ehrman, who wrote a book about heaven and hell, he says that, like, Jesus didn't actually believe in the concept of souls going to heaven or hell. Like, it was more about physical bodies being sent, to be either destroyed on the day of judgment, or to be physically reincarnated and sent to the New Jerusalem, to heaven. The soul didn't really factor into it, and I think that's, over time we've really developed more of like a soul-based theology in Christianity, but like it's all over the place. Like, I mean, there's a whole other podcast about the devil, but like, the devil doesn't even necessarily factor into hell, and we're talking about it in the Christian sense. But like, the fact of the matter is, this book stems from a long line of Christians using a religious practice to create fear, which compels people to doing things such as, like, giving the church money so you can get out of purgatory, or giving this dude money so you can get out of hell because purgatory is not real. But like, it's just all the same shit. Like, there's nothing new under the sun. It's just this guy wrote, the least interesting version of it.
This again felt very similar to the Heaven is for Real, where it's written for people to go, oh, I believe, but like, I even super more believe now that I got concrete proof. And it's very frustrating because this is just such a cash grab. Like, there was no like travesty that happened. He was like, yeah, it was just me and my wife when I went to hell, and I kind of died, passed out. It happens. She saw it, and I was raised a conservative Christian and study it, so all of my beliefs were right from the beginning, just as God intended. It's very, very frustrating. I think I actually would give it more credence if he was just stone cold atheist beforehand, and God pulled another Paul Saul situation and struck him blind for a month.
And like, there are those people, but like, I think you're hitting on the most important thing, which, like, this is absolutely just a get rich quick scheme. Like, the thing about Heaven is for Real is, like, something terrible happened to a family, and like, that sucks, and like, we're much more sympathetic to that. But like, this dude literally was just like, yeah, and here's a story that I wrote. Here's my cool creative writing assignment, and if you don't want to read the whole thing, because this book is 130 very, very quick pages, you can listen to the 8-minute version on audiobook, which is also available for a slightly discounted price. Like, his website store is very sparse. It's just like various versions of Heaven is for Real, or not Heaven is for Real, Jesus. Hell, 23 Minutes in Hell, and then like the 10th anniversary edition of 23 Minutes in Hell, and like one other book that he wrote. But like, it's just so blatantly just like, this dude wanted to make some more money.
It's
all
like,
that happened.
Truly, I read Heaven is for Real, and I was instantly struck of, oh, I can believe this family believes this happened, and fully can buy this story from them, and I feel such empathy that they're processing trauma. And then I read some of this and went, oh, yeah, Jesus telling you to go do a capitalism is not really jiving with my understanding of the Bible.
One of my favorite parts of reading reviews for this is that there are some biblical scholars that are like, yeah, I believe in heaven, I believe in hell, what you say about hell might be right. And then they just destroy, like, the most minor things. Michael, it'd be the equivalent if we let our dad read this. And he would just be like, are you kidding me? He's saying souls go to hell? Doesn't he know that only happens after the judgment in Revelations? Get your facts straight, dweeb. Like, that's what that was Brian Greene's understanding of this book.
I can't believe we got both your mom and your dad on this podcast.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, when you get my brother and I, you're more or less getting their reincarnation, so.
Yeah, just mix some personality traits around and there you go. This really bummed me out. First of all, because it was boring, and second of all, because he said the fucking Bible was a historically accurate document. It's just not. It's just so logically not. They get names and places wrong all of the time. You can edit this out. I understand. It's not funny. But it's just incorrect. Read a book that wasn't written by a Christian.
Like, you can believe in Christianity and understand that the Bible is a flawed document. Like, that's fine. But, like, gosh, what a
The
What a
Bible
joke.
contradicts itself. Like,
It's because Christians, like evangelical Christians in particular, and the religious right, are more interested in litigating the facts of the Bible and taking it literally than they are taking it seriously. And that was one of my first divergences with Christianity, is I always felt like, well, if you take the Bible literally, you probably can take it seriously. And vice versa.
So did you guys know this guy's got a Twitter?
Yeah, I didn't find anything interesting on it.
It's real.
Did you?
Real milk toast. It's mostly like, hey, check me out on Facebook.
It's mostly like, hey, check out my SoundCloud. I talk about hell.
Yeah. But he has 19 followers, which is or he follows 19 people. He has 1,500 followers, so he has a couple. But following 19 people, which I find very funny. This is an account.
He has 7 likes, if I'm remembering correctly.
Like just
not an active user.
Oh no, his last tweet was from
2019, I believe.
Yeah.
No, it's very good.
Yeah, he says God can never change or go back on any word ever spoken for eternity. So God is a prick.
Okay, great. Yeah, like, listen, it's not a good book. I wouldn't recommend reading it. I do want to thank Peach X Scone on Reddit, who recommended we check out this book. I appreciate it because it did remind me. I don't know if I let you all know this. I did actually read this book like when I was in grade school.
Wait. Sir?
Yeah. Yeah. I read all the Left Behind books when I was in grade school too. I went through a weirdly evangelical phase for a Catholic kid.
Yeah. What the fuck?
Listen, I was just on some next level shit. I don't know what to tell you. Yeah, no, this second reading was not quite as good, in my opinion.
You guys want to review it?
I suppose.
I'm gonna give it 1. Well, actually, the river Gihon could not possibly flow from Mesopotamia, as it encompasses all of Ethiopia.
I'm gonna give it the second Station of the Cross. Jesus takes up his cross because, it was just a very, it wasn't that long in the grand scheme of things, but it did feel like an ordeal to get through.
I am going to give this 1 demonic bear hug. Because... because that is something that actually happens in this book. It lasted too long, albeit how brief it actually was.
This is a good review.
If you have the infinite scope of your imagination, and the worst thing you can think of happening to you in hell is getting hugged by a big fish man. Come on, man.
Yeah, he's an evangelical. This actually
all right.
tracks.
Do we have any ideas for... Do we have any ideas for our next book club?
Oh, I don't know.
I'll have to think about
been
that.
Rough.
We've been through it, gentlemen.
We have been through it. I do want to... I am pushing for my dinosaurs and alien book.
Is that related to Christianity in some way?
It's questions you have about the Bible, and on the cover it has a Tyrannosaurus Rex and an alien spacecraft.
Oh, it's like a creationist thing?
Yeah.
Okay, that could be very good. I don't have anything at this time, unfortunately. Michael, do you have anything you've been sitting on?
Nothing that's pressing. I would be willing to delve into the world of creationism and anti-alien propaganda.
All right, that'll be fun. Yeah, I'll send you guys a link.
Excellent.
Or you
Good.
can just do the Josh method and guess and read the wrong thing.
Yeah, I'll just Google aliens, Christianity, ?
I know. Do we know what we're doing for next week?
Yeah, what are we doing next week? I think it's your... Is it your turn, Josh?
Oh, fuck, I don't have anything right off the top of my head. Oh, fuck.
If you don't have one, I actually have a really good non-horror choice.
All right, yeah. I'll do mine the week after. Yeah, lay it on us.
So I was reminded by my own memory that a longtime listener and friend of the pod, Jeff, recommended...
No, you son of a bitch! Absolutely not!
It's not what you think, but I'm so glad I got that reaction. Aaron thinks I'm choosing Sausage Party. But while I am going to save that for a future watch, I thought we could pick something a little bit more contemporary. So a couple months back, Jeff sent me a trailer to a film, Yes, God, Yes. So we are going to be watching Yes, God, Yes. It is a teen movie. It's another one of my favorite genre, and I'm very excited about it. I'm gonna read the description on Rotten Tomatoes just so you all know what we're getting into here. But I am very excited about this.
Why is it rated R?
Come on.
Okay.
Come on, like, it's in the same vein as Saved.
Oh, okay. I think we have to give, like, Jeff title of number one fan of the cast. He has been a real one since the beginning.
Yeah, for real. And that's why I feel like we have to give his pick some air here.
We just do the Jeff special and the thumbnail's his face.
For real.
I don't think he would like that.
So the description on Netflix is, a devoutly religious teen grapples with her own sexual awakening and attends a Catholic school retreat in hopes of suppressing her newfound urges.
Yeah, that sounds fun. That'll be a good one.
I'm excited.
Hopefully less Satan penis in this one.
Again, I have consumed no Satan penis content, so...
Coward.
You're the only tainted one, which is very funny.
Dang it.
All right. Well, gentlemen, when we're not arguing about who has seen the most Satan penis, where can people find you on the internet?
I am at Green History on Twitter, where you'll find me celebrating the end of my college career for 2 months, and then I go back.
You can find me at Michael's Diamonds on Twitter, and I am just starting my college career, so you will not find such celebrations from me, but sometimes I do get into fights with political figures.
More often than you'd expect.
You can find me on Twitter at AaronSXL. I'm halfway through my master's program, so that's something. You can also listen to the other podcast I do at Mortified Pod. By the time this episode goes up, Layla will have released our supercut episode for our, I guess it's going to be like our, it'll be our close 50th episode, maybe. It'll be like a supercut of all of our best moments over the past year. So please check that out. And then next week on that podcast, I believe Michael will be joining me for a very special episode wherein we play a Kingdom Hearts themed tabletop RPG, which is going to fucking rule, and I'm very excited for. So awesome. Please check that out.
I'm so excited.
Well, gentlemen, as we wipe the tears away, because now that we are outside of hell, we can cry again. Just remember that it is okay to cry, because even Jesus wept. We'll see you all next time.